Welcome to Unwanted Fraternity. We are so excited that you could join us for yet another episode where we talk about grief and pain and tragedy, all in the context of finding authentic healing through Jesus Christ. Greg Tonkinson here, and I am opening the show, which is a little different because we are continuing with our interview with our special guest who usually opens the show, and that's Jen Tonkinson. Jen, how are you doing?
Doing great, Greg. Glad to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on the show once again. I think you're always on the show.
I'm always on the show.
Not sure you're not on the show.
But I'm always happy to be here.
I like that. And listen, we are happy as well to be partnering with the Herzog Foundation. The Herzog Foundation is top notch. They care solely about furthering this next generation in becoming culture changers for Christ. And so what they do is their goal is to set forth tools and resources for parents and Christian educators, for administrators, for youth pastors, and church leaders alike. And their podcasts are right in line with that. Jen and I are proud to be a part of their podcast network. If you go to herzogfoundation.com/podcasts, you'll not only see Unwanted Fraternity there, you'll see our sister podcast, Melior, the podcast, but you're also going to see a host of other podcasts on topics that you'll want to tap into. Gain the tools and resources you need to help that next generation follow Jesus Christ. Well, we are wrapping up what I thought would be a quick one episode. That one episode turned into two episodes, and now we are on our third episode, aptly titled Jen's Story. We've talked about my story quite a bit. We've written a book with the same title as the podcast. And now it's time to hear Jen's side of the story. And so, Jen, we've been talking for the past couple of episodes on what brought you into the fraternity. Quick recap for our listeners.
Well, let's see. It was 15 years ago-ish, 14 years ago, that I was divorced. And it was because my marriage was going fine. I was married for 12 years. I had two small children, and my husband basically came home from a trip and said that he just didn't really love me and never loved me and didn't really want to be in this relationship anymore. And he wanted to hit the reset button on his life and move away, and gave me full custody of the kids. He did spend on and off time with them throughout the parenting time contract and so forth. But for the most part, he has, moved away and he's gone on with his life. So I moved to Arizona with my two small children, 4 and 6, and we started over. Thankfully, my family was here to help me, but that's kind of where we left off.
We did. We left off and that point where Jen is now kind of realizing I'm going to be single again. And so we left off last episode where the announcement was made, the shock was still present. You're just kind of going through, I don't want to say defensive motions, but just trying to figure out what I've got to get done today. And then, lawyers and all of that. But the reality of, this big picture reality that I was married, I have kids, I'm going to now wear the title of divorced and single mother. When did that start to set in for you? What was it when you moved back to Arizona? Was it in the, proceedings? At what point did you kind of grasp this new reality that I'm no longer married?
Well, our divorce was not finalized until I moved back to Arizona. So I still had communication with our lawyer here, but I was granted permission to go back to where I was from. So I guess it didn't really hit me until I loaded the minivan up with all of our stuff, with our dog and 2 cats and 2 children. And my dad flew out to help me move, drive everything out here. And my mom had stayed with me for like 4 months when this first happened and helped me just navigate the emotional side of it, which I haven't really gotten into because I think the last thing we left off on was I needed to get a lawyer. And I wasn't good at that. Like, who knows how to get a lawyer? So yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. But I went and spoke with a law firm that was in our area, really great law firm. I think someone had recommended it to me. And one of the people there, one of the lawyers there took up my case and we really wanted to, I mean, my thought was like, I just want to figure this out as quietly as possible because I don't want to wreck the kid's life. I don't want to spend years in court going back and forth. And that was what my ex-husband had also said, like, let's just make an amicable division here and, you know, we can get along pretty well. And so I did go into it thinking, yeah, we get along really well. Again, why is this happening?
Right.
And yet, once you get into that, so, you know, if you're going through divorce, you know what I mean. Once you get into the mediation, things change. People aren't as nice when you start talking about division of assets. So that's where I left us off.
Yeah. And I mean, you and I, but even independently, we've sat through other marriages where that announcement's made. I've heard more couples than I care to admit tell me the same thing. It didn't work out. We're still friends. We just can't be married. And this is always pre-negotiations. It's always pre-mediations. It's always pre-finalizations because the lawyers come in or the mediators come in and now we're splitting assets. Now we're deciding what was that worth? What was this worth? How much do you get? How much do I get? The whole idea of fairness comes into play now, equity, it's insane. And I think I'm batting 1,000, honestly, between those who told me this is going to start one way and then after it's all said and done, tell me it ended a completely different way. And it's never bad to good.
Right.
It's always, we're going to work this out. To
be easy, yeah.
I'm not sure that I know this person anymore. It's insane. The angst, the adversarial attitude, the you're my enemy now. I heard one story where let's do mediation and he walked in and she had lawyered up. So he walked in completely unprepared, like he was just going to work this out with his ex-wife with another person in the room, and he walks in and she's got a lawyer there, and it wasn't pretty.
I started out with a lawyer and we were going to use the same lawyer. That was the negotiation that he had mentioned. And of course, I don't know what else to do.
Did you guys get like a 2-for-1 or was it a BOGO or how does that like?
I think because he just really thought like this was just really cut and dry.
I didn't even know lawyers could do that.
I don't remember.
The same firm maybe? No, the same lawyer?
It was just going to be like, you write up this division of marriage for us and we're going to split everything and call it a day.
Maybe that's what we should have on the show is...
Oh, a lawyer.
Divorce lawyers.
Yes, that would be interesting.
Christian divorce lawyers.
Yes.
And hear their stories. Holy cow. We're at the pub.
Might be a book.
And I think that the pub would be...
a good place for that.
The pub would be a good place to hear some of those stories.
I walked into mediation very unprepared. And that's what you have to do prior to going to court. You have to have time of mediation to make sure that you don't need to go to court. Why waste the court's time if you can settle outside? It's much cheaper and so forth. And so I came to mediation and he had then gotten a lawyer because it didn't seem to be working out to where we could split everything. And so he grabbed a lawyer. And that actually helped because now the lawyers are communicating and I'm not communicating with him to communicate back to the lawyer. And it became kind of messy. And, but I remember sitting in mediation, having no idea what we were going to divide up. I mean, I understand we had a house and we had our things in the house, and I didn't quite understand how that would, because I mean, I'm a pretty sentimental person, and so I was like, how do I divide? You get this and you get that. So he eventually said, like, I don't want much. I just want to move out of the state and so forth.
Which is never true.
Well, and he didn't take a lot of stuff, but what really wrecked me,
money.
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely wanted to split the money. Yeah.
Right. Bank accounts. That's stuff.
Right. The thing that was really difficult that I was not prepared for was talking about our children like they were assets. Wow. Meaning I had to divvy up time with them. And I remember just like the feeling was so crushing, the heaviness of the situation. We had to split time with Christmas and with Thanksgiving and with Easter and every single holiday that I like. And I love holidays. I love decorating the house. I love the memories. I love all of the little things I put in with the kids and building tradition with them. Tradition is huge with me. And so the thought of not having a year of tradition with my littles, like they were little, that their memory would only be going back and forth to two different houses every other year. And we had ended up splitting it like Christmas Eve, they would be dropped off at one place
in some parking lot,
flown by possibly by themselves or with a caretaker or whatever. You had to work all that out, the logistics of how do you get the kids to a different state.
I've flown on Christmas Day.
It's
insane.
Fun. Yeah.
I mean, as a kid.
Right.
Like my parents were divorced and
you had to.
Yeah, they divorced when I was 7 and like I know what that feels like doing holidays with one parent and not the other. And even as kids, you think about that other parent. Like they're alone. They're with friends, but they're not with me. Even as kids think that. So for as much as this impacts parents, for sure, the kids, it impacts as well. And there is when you divorce, there's no easy solution. But I hear that, and we hear that at our school a lot. Oh, I'm going to do this weekend with my dad, this weekend with my mom. I have a set of clothes here, a set of clothes there. I can't. Well, I know the toll it takes. I can't imagine, a young mom going through that. I lived it as a kid, but what was the perspective as a young mom who deeply loves her kids?
It was the worst thing I could ever possibly imagine doing.
Yeah. And
putting it on paper was so difficult because I would say like, okay, well, who gets the first Thanksgiving? So I got the first Christmas and he got the first Thanksgiving. And then we would just alternate. And it just hit me that this is really happening.
So you would say probably it was then that was it started.
When I was
started to sink
fully
in,
wrecked.
Like this is real.
And I remember sobbing in the lawyer's office, just uncontrollably sobbing. And I just said, I don't know what to do anymore. Like I can't figure out what to divide. Yeah. I don't want this to happen. I don't know why this is happening. And I kept saying it over and over again. And, he finally looked at me and said, why don't we do this another time? And I had to leave. So it was hard. So I feel for those people who have to go through that you're just reconciling in your head. Like my marriage is ending. And I don't honestly, like a lot of people have asked why did this happen?
Right.
And I unfortunately don't have tangible answers for that. Like
it's not one answer.
Right. It's not like, well, this happened so we got divorced. It's
sometimes actually, sometimes the one event is so cataclysmic that alone, but that's rare. Adultery or something where it's like, I just can't get over that. But even adultery often is a series of events that leads up to the actual act of adultery.
Yes.
It's usually never one, like our marriage was fine. And then this one event, it's always something. So it's an unfair question when people say, well, why did you get divorced? I mean, that's like asking, what'd you have to eat for the last year? Like, how do you want me to answer that? And so, pro tip, if you're loving on someone, a family member or friend that is going through a divorce, probably not the best question to ask, why is this happening? They're asking that, and they're in it, and they're probably not coming back with, oh, this is exactly why. It's a relationship. And like friendships, like family relationships, those things have ebbs and flows. It's just that you guys had reached a point where it got past the point of, hey, this is salvageable from his vantage point.
Right. I always thought, well, maybe he'll have second thoughts. I mean, maybe he'll spend time with the kids and he'll be like, why am I doing this? So I really didn't quite grasp the truth of the situation until I was out of it, and I can look back in hindsight and go, oh, yeah.
And by the way,
that makes so much sense now.
Because I want to get to your moving to Arizona and new life and whatnot, but that's a very astute point. We, get 5 years in between it, get 10 years in between it, and you look back and you can now see with clarity, and often it's on both sides. Like, I could have done this better. He certainly could have done that better. But at some point, it really is, that's good to reflect on a little bit, but it's over. Like, it's, why go back and just sit in, oh my gosh, if I had only, because you can't. Time has moved on. So I think the reason God allows us to gain clarity to look back isn't so much for either guilt or, it's for the wisdom I need to help somebody else.
I agree.
It's so that when that younger couple comes and says, he's doing this or she's doing this, now we can say, hey, I experienced that. Let me tell you how this is going to play out. This is going to turn out to be not good. So, but yeah, time gets in the way, and you seem to have a little bit more clear vision. You go through all the process. It's ugly. It's messy. So here's what I want to know is, talk to us a little bit about the chain of events in terms of who gets to know when. Because again, you guys have this conversation. There's some weird, he's living there, but for the most part, you're kind of walking through like this is headed toward divorce. You start to finalize, hey, we need to get lawyers. Like, we need to move on this. So now it's becoming more official. Like, this is really going to happen. When did you start to let other people know that my marriage, for all intents and purposes, has ended?
I told my very close friends that this was happening almost immediately, because I needed
some close friends
were just like two people.
Yeah, so
my parents.
So 2 or 3 people were getting a play-by-play.
I would say one person, in particular. And then I had a friend from high school that I talked to often. That really helped me because she knew me.
Plus mom and dad.
Plus my mom and dad.
Yeah.
And then I honestly talked to his parents quite a bit for a little while, because I told them like this is happening, and they couldn't understand it either, because again, on the outside looking in, like people were just like, what is happening? Like, why would this happen?
So here's the big question, I guess, is now that you can look back and see how it all played out and you've experienced it, what would your wisdom be to others in terms of how do you roll this information out, and to whom do you roll it out to? Because this starts to get like Team Jen, Team X pretty quickly. And all of a sudden, everyone gets to weigh in now on advice, judgment, here's what you could have done or should have done, or, whatever. And that just adds to so much more pressure as to, am I doing this right? I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't even know what today holds. And now I've got people telling me, here's what I need to do or should do. What would your wisdom be for someone to say, hey, if I were you, I would keep it to one person. I wouldn't even include parents. How do you play that out now?
I would do it much like I did. I had a small group. So you think about your circle of friends, you've got your core, you've got your outside circle of like work friends, and then you've got your people you see every once in a while. And so I didn't share with, and I didn't have work friends, but I had mom friends, you know, like from school. So pick up, you know, I still had to pick my kids up from school and wait outside, and they could tell something was wrong, but I did not go up and say like, hey, just so you know, I wanted you to know that this is happening. And so I did tell my son's teacher, just because I wanted her to take notice of him. I having an education background, you just, when your kids have to go to school and they're working through trauma and, you know, being just so upset at home and not understanding things, it's so helpful to involve that teacher and let them know as soon as possible, because they are with your kid all the time.
And they can pick up on, you know, habits or behaviors that you're not present and can share them with you.
Because you can't see that stuff when you're going through grief.
No, that's good. That's good.
So I did share it with her, and then I shared it with my parents and his parents because they needed to understand what was happening. And I didn't call them immediately, but I think I called my mom pretty quickly because I was so sad. Sure. And I mean, it's my mom.
Understandable. But that is a fair question, because I think a lot of our listeners out there are either going through it, they got loved ones that are going through it. It's like with that, like you said, the circles, you know, and I understand the friendship circles, but then you got the family circles. You have nuclear family and extended family and in-laws and cousins, and it's like, you know, be on the other side of that. You are a sibling. How quickly do you need to know? You are a cousin. How quickly do you need to know? You're a parent. Like, before you start talking, I would say it's worth just sitting in, kind of, you know, get out some paper or something, maybe make a list, but I would be, as painful as it is and in the moment, but, you know, it's difficult, but I would say it'd be worth it to just be thoughtful as to who you're going to tell and when you're going to tell them, so that when, you know, the smoke starts to clear and people start, well, how come you didn't call me? Or how come you have some reason for that? Now, again, like with my situation, no one was prepared for it. It happened unexpectedly. So you just start making calls, and then the chips are going to fall where they do. And so no one came up to me ever and said, boy, I was surprised you didn't call me, or I was surprised you didn't, you know, I mean, no one's going to disrespect you like that. But with a divorce, there is some lag time. There's some time there, right? And so how did you make the decision on who to confide with and when? I really did keep it close. Yeah. I didn't want it to be dramatic, you know, and also I was embarrassed. I mean, it's hard, especially like being in the church, I didn't tell anyone at church, and that's so backwards, isn't it?
Because your church is supposed to be the place where you can just walk in and be like, I'm having a mess right now and I need help. But I'm grateful that I had Christian friends.
I'm curious.
Well, I just didn't have like connections there to share with. Like, I didn't know, like, I can go up to the pastor and be like, hey, you know,
Why
it
not?
was a bigger church. It was just a big church.
All right. Well,
and
that's a shame.
I know. You're right.
I mean, honestly,
but that's what happens when you're at, you know, big churches. It's hard to get plugged in. I enjoyed the church, but, I did have Bible study people that I could talk to, but again, I think I stopped going to Bible study because when you're sad, unfortunately, you just want to you just need to figure things out. Like, I was weepy. Like, I didn't want to be sitting in Bible study, just weeping. So I just kind of kept to myself. I did my routine. I remember thinking, I have to keep a routine for the kids. I have to do the same thing every day and be normal for them. Even though inside, I remember not falling, but like I just kind of sat on the ground one night when I was trying to cook dinner and just started bawling. And my older son came and sat beside me at 6 and was like trying to comfort me. And that's hard. That's hard for him. That's hard for me. Yeah. And yet it was the only thing I knew to do right then is
Yep.
I'm just sad. And I just told him that I'm like, I'm just sad right now. And it's okay to be sad sometimes. I mean,
Yeah.
you talk to him like he's
Absolutely.
6
No, yeah.
but I guess I had to pull myself together
Yep.
all the time.
Yeah.
It was interesting because they weren't used to him being home anyway, because he traveled so much. And so it was normal for them to not have him around, and see him like on the weekends or whatever anyway.
Yeah.
But the weird part was like, once he moved out, it was going to his location, and he didn't have like a place for them to be. He had a small apartment. So we would meet like at, was it Chuck E. Cheese or whatever? And I remember sitting out in the parking lot, like just sitting there for 2 hours. I didn't know what to do. It was so sad.
You dropped them off
At Chuck E. Cheese
at Chuck
or
E.
wherever
Cheese.
the pizza places, Peter Piper or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. But why did you stay in the parking lot?
I didn't know.
Why didn't you just go home?
Because I didn't trust him at that time.
So he went into Chuck E. Cheese and you stayed in the parking lot.
I did. I was just like, what is happening? I don't know this person anymore. Why is, it's probably not, I wasn't super
They're
healthy.
eating too much pizza.
No, I mean like, no, not that. I mean like,
They're not supposed to go on that ride. I don't let them play that video game.
I did not do that. I did not go inside.
They're getting too many tickets.
Stop it. Anyway, I
Yeah,
just
but,
didn't
I mean,
know. Like
honestly-
they're 4 and 6. Like they're going to
Yeah.
visit dad
Yeah.
at Chuck E. Cheese. It's weird
No.
for them. I mean,
And-
and I'm not coming in. Why isn't mom going in?
See, and that's the thing is I love what you're saying, Jen, because this is the reality with divorce is like, honest to goodness, I haven't looked, but probably you go to Barnes and Noble or somewhere, you go into a divorce section and there's probably books on like how to have a great divorce or whatever. That's a tragedy because the reality is every situation's different and everyone reacts differently. Mm-hmm. You look back and think that's a little crazy. Like, why am I sitting in a parking lot? Because you care about your kids and you don't know what to do. And like there's no playbook on this. And what once was normal now is completely new. This is forging a new identity, a new territory, a new life. You're doing the best you can. But what hurts my heart is what you just said, because what we preach on Unwanted Fraternity is the church has to be your place to do life with. It's like highs and lows. It's got to be the place where it's a hospital. And in this season, you were broken, and the church that you were attending, for whatever reason, you just didn't feel like this is going to be my place.
It was because, and I've said this even when we've done grief share and divorce care, there is something about the title of "I'm divorced."
Yeah.
It's seen as like, well, are you biblically divorced? Is there a reason? Like,
Right, your scarlet letter.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I finally got used to saying that when I moved, and it took some time.
Oh, yeah.
To say like, oh no, I'm divorced. And because it takes people back, like especially little couples who are not divorced. And so, and
Well, you
and
know, it's
honestly,
coming.
you can't fit, it's hard to fit in church when you're divorced, because
Well,
you have
and
to go to
why?
a special divorce group.
Yeah. It's
Or the
like,
single ministry for what age group you're in. And it's so weird, but
It is.
You get used to it. But it's just not a perfect system.
it's not, but it needs to be better.
It does.
It really does, because I don't care. Like if we're starting to make exceptions, well, here's what's appropriate to share at church and here's what's not. We've lost because everyone's going to have a reason. I've got a porn addiction. I've got a gambling addiction. I've got a divorce, or there's some cultural sin that the church is not ready to embrace. And I would say divorce is one of those. Porn, certainly. Gambling. I think alcoholism, or so. It's just smoking. The church is just still not ready to say, "Oh, that stinks. Like, how can I help you with that?" Or let me love on you. How can I? But man, oh man, there's some issues like my issue, widowed. Or some sort of death or health issue. Oh, the church rallies around those people. But you come in with these like societal type sins
Nobody's bringing a casserole to my house.
that's the tagline right there. I mean, honestly, like, you know, shame on the church because no one's bringing a casserole to Jen's house because she got divorced.
But then
Like,
again, I didn't reach out to call the pastor and say,
It's a
hey,
two-way
I'm going
street.
through a
No.
divorce. I need help. But
But-
I will say, like, my sweet friend who was, in the neighborhood right next to me, she like seriously loved on me. It was
Well,
incredible.
and here's the-
She did bring me food.
and here's
Or
the
she made food
tragedy
for
as
me.
well. Like, Christians, non-Christians, unbelievers, people that don't even know Jesus sometimes outdo me in compassion and love and like right place at the right time. And that's a shame that, I'm not saying this is your case, but I have heard of neighbors that don't even know Jesus that are bringing the casseroles, that are spending time with you in your pain. And they don't even know what to say. Like they're making off-colored remarks or they're talking about sue him or do whatever because they don't know Jesus and they're just trying the best they can while the believers are, huddled together in their holiness and they don't even know the pain that's going on. Like we really got to break that down in the local church and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's in the service time, like, hey, if you're struggling right now, if you're going through a divorce, if your kid's addicted to something, like raise your hand, stand up, do something because we're going to love on you right now. You do that enough times at a church where it becomes part of the culture. Now it's not weird. You do it once a year. Now it's weird.
Yeah, that's true.
But if hey, this church, just so you know, they're going to kind of get in your business. I think over time, people are like, either I'm out, like I don't like that, or no, I like that because I know I go through highs and lows. And when I'm at a high, I can help others in their lows and vice versa. So, okay, so all that's happening.
Yes.
You get into your minivan and packed full of stuff. You leave Colorado, you drive down to Arizona. Was there any sense of excitement? Was there any sense of adventure? Was there any sense of like, I can't wait for this? Or was it still, I can't believe this is happening?
I can't believe this is happening.
Okay.
It was still very hard. I was like, it just felt heavy for a long time.
Yeah.
My parents were so gracious and let me live with them in their basement with my
Literally.
with my two kids.
Like not
I'm literally in their basement.
literally in the basement. Which I've been
For
to
like
Jen's house,
over a
obviously,
month.
been to her folks' house. It's not a horrible basement.
It's a nice basement.
It's a nice basement. So let's not paint it as,
It was great. It was like fully closed off. It
full
had
bathroom,
yeah,
like-
my
yeah,
kids
like an
had
apartment
space. It was like an apartment.
downstairs, yeah.
Kids had space
But
to play.
still.
But it wasn't our
wasn't what you
stuff.
came
and they
from.
my kids were sleeping on blow up mattresses because and that's fine, they can. But I mean, it
Yeah.
was not short lived. Like we were there for a while because we had to find a place to live. We settled our finances, sold the house, split that. He took one car, I took the minivan, I took all the animals, which is fine because you want to get rid of your kids' animals kind of thing. And so it was just a lot. I was a single mom with two small children, a very large hyper dog, and two cats that were on their way out of this world because they were old. And it just was, I've been looking around like, what is happening? This is so much.
Hey, shout out honestly to Mike and Sarah, Jen's parents. Like you're not expecting that. They're at that point kind of, edging retirement, kind of like looking at empty nest and, Jen has a brother and so it's a sister brother kind of thing. But this is later in life and now they're right back in the thick of it in terms of not just helping you, but not raising your kids, but certainly helping with that. I mean, that's a huge responsibility, but also like the way they played it in terms of, hey, love conquers all. That's super cool to hear that they didn't take a posture of, well, that's your problem, deal with it. Hey, come on in.
Yeah.
And
It
we'll
was
figure this out.
Not even a thought. They just took me
That's
in.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother was such a great helper as well. He was he's a great fun uncle and really stepped into. So I was grateful.
So you
Close
come
family.
home and you're trying to figure this out. You gotta now look for work. You have to look for, childcare,
I had,
schooling systems. I mean, all that.
Here's a little word to the wise. I had no credit because everything was in his name. Don't do that ever. And so I had to build back. I almost couldn't get a cell phone in my name. And I was 35. So, yeah, make sure you always both names. So I had to work in getting, a credit, and able to get, to be able to buy a house. I did have enough money to put down payment on that from the sale of the other home in Colorado. So we were able to find a home. It took about a month and a half to find a place that would fit our kids. And I didn't want a lot. I just wanted small. And I honestly, at this point, was never getting married again.
Right.
I was
Sure.
done.
Yeah.
I was like, this men are horrible.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like, good, I can do this. I'm strong. And my dad taught me well, I can do, handiwork and stuff. And so was able to take care of the home and best I could. I had my parents come over a little bit. So we got into, the house. I needed a preschool, to get, the younger son into. And so, that was such a God moment because I really wanted to be close and the preschool, I had him in. I don't remember what was happening with that, but I just had prayed. I'm like, Lord, please just let me find the right place. And I called this preschool across the street. And this is such a fun story, which I don't know if we have time to get into about how connected you were to that preschool. But I was, I woke up the next morning. I called him. I said, hey, I know it's late August. I just need to get my kiddo into preschool. I think that's what it was. I couldn't find a place to get him into, and because it was so late and everything was full. And she's like, oh my gosh, somebody just canceled. One person just canceled for that exact class this morning. I have one opening. And I was like, sign me up. And it's literally right across the street. Well, to our viewers, that's where Greg had sent his daughter, Malia, who's now my stepdaughter. And Leanne's best friend's daughter was there, and Luke and her daughter's little 3-year-old friendship, they became friends before we ever met. And so it's just such a perfect place for my kiddos to go. So I was grateful for that. I even got to work there for a little bit. They gave me a job and was able to do preschool. And now I am a junior high teacher. So preschool's not my strong suit, but I met some amazing young people there who are now in 9th grade. And anyway, so I got settled. I got a place for the kids. In that time period, I was still sharing time. So he came out here to do the first time away, which was Thanksgiving. And that was the worst Thanksgiving I've ever had in my life. It was so, so sad. I remember his parents had come out to get them and drive them to Colorado where he was. I think they were going to California, Disneyland. That's what it was. They were going to go to Disneyland and meet there, but they had driven through to pick the kids up. And they knew the kids, they'd spent a lot of time with them. So I trusted the situation, but it was just the feeling of they're going to leave mom, who they've never traveled without me at this point. Now to go travel with their grandparents by themselves to see their dad, who they haven't seen in a long time. And I remember putting them in their car seats and they were crying because they were crying mommy and they wanted to stay with me. And I remember shutting the door and just bawling, and it was awful. It was the worst. And but anyway, they had a great time. And they had a great time with him, and it was good memories for them and so forth. But it was being the person left behind. It is hard. It's very hard to go through.
It's complex. And listen, we're sharing this story because so many couples go through this. But I want to be clear, we don't advocate for this. We don't wish this upon someone. When I hear couples say, well, it just wasn't working out for us, but it's good. It's better for the kids. I really just question that, because everything you just shared, and even over the past 2 episodes, how is this a win? So yeah, we can look 15 years down the road and look back, but I would really caution everyone just to like exhaust every possible single resource you have, including pastors, therapists, counselors, friends, family. Our culture has made divorce way too easy. It has set up marriage with a kind of an expiration date, a kind of a trial and you know, a 90-day trial, and if you don't like it, just turn it back in. Our culture says, hey, try it. If it doesn't work, just cash in the chips. And I'm telling you, that's not biblical, and that's not God's plan for marriage. God's plan for marriage is till death do you part. But that takes two people. Both parties have to go into this where it's not involuntary. It's voluntarily death do us part. And so Jen, seriously appreciate you sharing your story with us. I want to get to, and probably have to wait till the next episode, as life as a single mom, because it's one thing to get through all of that. Mm-hmm. And when I say get through of it, obviously we never get through it, but to deal with all that, it's another thing to get up and now have to be the provider, and not only the provider for your kids, but also, where am I in all this? Like, where's your self-worth in all this? And where do I find my identity now that it's kind of been shattered, at least humanly speaking? And so I want to talk a little bit more about, okay, now that you're on the other side, different state, different home, how do you pick the pieces up? Because you are a highly successful, sought after person now. How did you get to that point? Because if we stop the story right now, man, this lady is broken. Mm-hmm. She's just trying to figure life out. She didn't know which end is up. Like, I take you back to 2010, 2011. You're in Arizona. You drop your kid off at preschool, or you drop your kid off at Thanksgiving. You're weeping. Would you ever have imagined that in 2024 you'd be named National Teacher of the Year? Like, how did you get from that to this? And so, but that's gonna have to wait till next episode, because we're out of time. Thanks so much for joining us today. This really is the epitome of what our shows are about. They're stories. Yes, we want to include as much people as we can. And so listen, if you have a story that you just want to talk to us about, we have found the power behind a story, which is finding someone else who can relate to your story. So if you're going through something, marital issues, or you've been divorced and you're hearing what Jen is talking about and you're thinking, oh my goodness, not only can I relate, I want to add to that. Hit us up on our website, hit us up on social media, email us at the school. We'd love to talk with you about that, because there's power in your story, as we have just heard from Jen. Wait till next time till we find out what exactly happened, but it ends well, I promise you that. Thanks for joining us on Unwanted Fraternity. We'll see you next time.